I had great debates. I thought this was my best debate.
Yeah, Donald Trump making up weird stories about people eating dogs and cats.
I think he's crazy.
Donald Trump continues to focus on what the American people want to talk about, which is their paychecks.
She was so sarcastic, and it really irked him.
She listened to Donald Trump's answers and responded to them in devastating ways.
She had the former president on the defense.
I think Kamala Harris made a lot of mistakes tonight.
People who are supporting Kamala Harris and Joe Biden don't know what's going on.
He's really trying to unify our country. He's trying to bring us back together.
She explained more. I think Trump was more flustered.
I think Kamala won.
Welcome to the day. We begin with the most highly anticipated moment of the US presidential race between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. Millions in the US and around the world tuned in to watch the presidential debate. The showdown was the first chance for Americans to see the two candidates square off over issues like the economy, migration, and reproductive rights. And it was a feisty encounter, with each candidate accusing the other of lying. Vice President Harris repeatedly attacked Donald Trump on his economic policies and his record as president. Harris also focused on reproductive rights, accusing Mr. Trump of wanting a nationwide abortion ban. Donald Trump focused on inflation and immigration and said that the Vice President and President Biden had allowed millions of migrants to enter the US. Trump also said Harris had flip-flopped on key policies. So who came out on top? DW went to Harris and Trump watch parties to ask people what they thought of the candidates' performances.
She's actually staying on point, staying on topic, answering questions, giving facts and figures, and her opponent can't string a sentence together.
Got the convicted criminal on trial. He doesn't stick to the script. He just can't stick to. He said they're eating dogs in a little town somewhere.
I think it's been great. I think Trump has been holding his own. He's been on point and sharp, right to the point, answering the questions, and most importantly, calling her out.
My impression is that Trump is very honest. He speaks from the heart. He speaks the truth. He knows the facts. He knows the storyline, and I wholeheartedly believe that he would be the best president for the United States of America.
Well, let's pick through this event with our Washington the bureau chief, Ines Pohl. Welcome, Ines. What stood out for you?
I think the very beginning, when Kamala Harris and Donald Trump entered the stage, and she just walked up to him and kind of forced him to shake her hand by nearly pulling him behind his own desk. There couldn't have been any bigger difference to the beginning of the debate between Donald Trump and Joe Biden, when kind of after the second or so, it was clear that Joe Biden wasn't really there and might most likely lose this debate. So she really set the tone of the whole evening within these first 30 seconds or so.
And we just heard a lot of voters there. They've already made their minds up. How much do you think this debate can influence the outcome of the election?
Well, it is the first debate between Trump and Harris. And as Donald Trump is very well known for the American audience and the worldwide audience, I assume Kamala Harris is still kind of a newcomer. So she really needed to be able to present herself, to make clear what she stands for, to also show that she, as a woman, would be capable to be the commander-in-chief. So the stakes definitely were in a way higher for her. You know, the debates, how much do they matter? I mean, even if people win a debate, it doesn't mean that they win the election. We might remember the debate between Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton in 2016, where she got out as the clear winner, but by the the end of the day, lost the presidential election. So we shouldn't overestimate, but this is such a special race, as you know, Kamala Harris got into this race so late in the game and is kind of a not so well-known figure. So I think it was more important than other debates might have been. But let's also not make a mistake here. Most of the voters in both camps are already decided. So it's about these up to 200,000 undecided voters in these very important swing states. They might have been somewhat influenced by the debate, but it's definitely not a deal maker or breaker.
We heard Donald Trump there saying that he thought this was his best debate performance yet. Tell us more about how the campaigns of both candidates are reacting.
Yeah, both campaigns, of course, claimed victory, but that's also common right after debates. I mean, the first polls right after the debate showed it's called a flash font, like from CNN, for example. I'm just looking down here on my paper. Showed a 63% win of Kamala Harris over Donald Trump. That also reflects the commentaries, the editorial pages of the papers, also on the more conservative side. This morning, but still Donald Trump kind of tries to show off, to say that he won because, and that is actually true, Kamala Harris didn't really present clear plans how she will handle migration, for example, or push the economy. But he also, of course, and that was also clear, blamed the two moderators who were, what he says, more critical with him than with Kamala Harris. So he kind of portrays himself also a little bit as a victim here. But yeah, both camps claim a victory, but the overall take here in this country at least is that Kamala Harris left the stage as the winner of this debate.
And just another couple of words about the attacks launched by each candidate. We had Kamala Harris. She seemed to go on the attack from the start, trying to goad Donald Trump. Do you think that tactic worked?
It totally worked. I mean, that was her main goal, I think, to kind of, you know, get him off, make him lose his guard, kind of make him show who he is. And she did that, as I just said, from the very beginning on, by just forcing him to shake her hand, what he doesn't like to do. What she did brilliantly, in my opinion, was when it came to the topic of migration, she kind of turned the content away by talking about the sizes of the crowd visiting Trump rallies. That's a very sensitive topic for Donald Trump, and he took this bite. And instead of really cornering her on migration issues and the fact that there is no efficient border control in place, he took that bite and got into like telling or trying to tell the viewers that he has the biggest crowds ever in the world. So yes, she was able to trigger him, and she was able to distract him in that way that he didn't really push her into difficult places where she might have had a hard time to take or to keep her stance.
Because immigration and inflation are two of his lines of attack, key issues in this election, and it sounds like he didn't manage to land those punches.
He did not, indeed, and that's kind of surprising because everybody knew that that would be her kind of take, her strategy, and he obviously couldn't help himself being himself. What we heard from his advisors before the debate, everybody was hoping from this camp that he wouldn't fall for this bait, but he did. So there was no real discussion about inflation, about the economy, about migration, the topics which indeed matter most for the voters here in the United States. So in that regard, this debate, as many others, was kind of disappointing. But you know, Phil, this is a TV format. I mean, this is mostly about emotions and effects. We rarely hear any like really deeply thought through political strategies or plans. This is really more for like the show and the quick win.
And did we learn anything about the candidates' foreign policy aims?
Yeah, that's also interesting because normally, you know, foreign policy doesn't play hardly any role in a presidential election here in the United States, as it does not in many other countries. But this is a little bit different because, of course, the war in Ukraine and the huge debates about how much money the United States would be willing to spend and support Ukraine. So this is a debate in the States since many months also, like how much other NATO countries should pay for this military alliance. So this also played a role in this debate, and the contrast was really sharp here. Donald Trump refused to say that he would support Ukraine and would hope for a win of Ukraine over Russia. And on the other hand, there was Kamala Harris leaving no doubt how much she believes in the importance of NATO, how important it is for her that the NATO allies trust the United States. So that was a huge difference here. And also when they talked about Israel, which is also an important topic in many swing states, especially as the Arab American vote does matter, as it will be such a small margin by the end of the day, which will decide the outcome of the vote. Here, Kamala Harris differs a little bit from the take of Joe Biden. She, of course, supports the right of Israel to defend itself, but it's much more critical with Israel's politics in Gaza, and also supports a two-state solution. So that was a very kind of clear message on her side. On the other hand, Donald Trump was very hard to understand what he meant when he was talking about the conflict. So there we also saw kind of a sharp contrast.
All right, good talking to you as ever, Ines. Thank you so much. Ines Pohl in Washington.
Presidential candidates Kamala Harris and Donald Trump joined President Joe Biden in New York to remember the victims of 9/11. Standing in silence to mark a day of national mourning. Hours earlier, they were facing off on stage in Philadelphia in their first debate. Harris was often on the front foot as the pair sparred over issues from foreign policy and the economy to the highly sensitive topics of abortion and gun control. They also attacked what they saw as each other's moral failings.
I told you she was ready!
Speaking to her supporters afterwards, Harris was buoyant.
Hey, Billy!
All right, so you guys know how I am. Okay, today was a good day. We got to work tomorrow. We got 56 days to go. We got a lot of work to do.
Democrats at a debate watch party shared her enthusiasm.
She's actually staying on point, staying on topic, answering questions, giving facts and figures, and her opponent can't string a sentence together.
Visiting the spin room after the debate, Trump was bullish.
I say the truth. If I lose votes or gain votes, I don't care. But this was my best debate. I thought it was very good. I thought she was very weak on foreign policy. She was very weak on the border.
An opinion echoed by his supporters.
I think it's been great. I think Trump has been holding his own. He's been on point and sharp, right to the point, answering the questions, and most importantly, calling her out.
The debate cemented support for each candidate in their respective camps. But we'll have to wait until November to see if it was enough to move the needle for undecided voters. A group that could prove critical to securing an election victory.
Well, let's take a look at this with Karen Sebold. She's an assistant professor of political science at the University of Arkansas in the United States. Welcome to DW. We just heard Donald Trump there saying he thinks that was his best ever debate performance. What did you think?
Well, I don't think he's wrong. He certainly did a good job of kind of restraining himself, not being as reactive as he normally might be, and especially given the number of times that Vice President Harris tried to reel him in, kind of bait him. I think he remained relatively calm. There were times he showed his, his disappointment in what she was saying. But all in all, I would say he actually stayed more on message than he has in previous debates.
And is this debate performance from either or both candidates, is this likely to sway undecided voters, do you think?
Yeah, believe it or not, these debates that occur in the weeks before a general election in the U.S. can be impactful because there are a number of voters that are truly undecided. They're nonpartisan, or they have low information. So these debates can help them to understand who these candidates are better, as well as how they handle themselves in a debate, because that might translate into how they might handle themselves with other world leaders.
So you see this actually impacting the outcome of this election?
Yeah, the elections in the U.S. are often decided on the margins. The folks that are not overly partisan, maybe don't even vote every election, or really just remain undecided until the end because they're not paying attention. It's a small number of people, but those folks, especially the ones that live in the battleground states, are essential to reach with this messaging, which is why you had the debate in Pennsylvania to begin with, was to try and attract some of those voters.
Do you think there'll be another one?
Well, if I had a crystal ball, I would probably go and put some money on that. But I don't. And it's really hard to predict one of the candidates, Donald Trump, whether or not he would want to perform in another debate. Clearly, Kamala Harris would like to challenge him to one more debate. But, he always has a very kind of negative perception of these debates because they tend to be hosted by the mainstream media, which he distrusts. And he clearly did not come out as the person with the momentum out of this debate. Many believe Kamala handled herself well. The bar was higher for her, and she did reach that. And so she might be the one to benefit if there was another debate. So that might tell you how he will calculate whether or not he decides to participate again.
And now that Taylor Swift has endorsed Kamala Harris, is that likely to have any impact?
Well, certainly it might with a few of those undecided voters that, maybe don't pay attention to politics, but they love Taylor Swift. But you have to keep in mind the target audience for Taylor Swift. A lot of these folks are under 18, not legally of age to vote yet in the United States. So, I don't know that it'll have a measurable impact, but it certainly helps in terms of perceptions around the race. It may help in terms of her getting more endorsements from other folks like Taylor Swift, who are really popular. Maybe a Beyonce will endorse. It's really hard to measure endorsements and their impact, but generally endorsements don't make or break a race.
Good talk with you. Thank you so much for joining us. Karen Sebold, Assistant Professor of Political Science at the University of Arkansas.
Thank you.